All right, we're back live for another amazing episode of AI Data Mastery. Quick thank you to our couple sponsors, Evolve with AI and Data Accelerator. Also, I'm your host, Jason Reno. Extremely excited for today's episode with our guest here, Michael Giangregorio. I think I got that right.
Got it.
Uh,
Good job,
he's
Jason.
the he's the founder of MMG Medical, fast-growing ortho-focused distributor built around this simple idea, which is don't just sell implants, but sell trust, readiness, and elite service. And I think from our pre-show, I think that pretty much hits on what you're really focused on there at MMG Medical. Michael's covered thousands of joint procedures, saw the inside of big med device politics firsthand, and now he's building a modern concierge type of model and service that surgeons, funny enough, actually want to work with, right? Crazy thought, but welcome to the show, Michael. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Great intro. Good summary
Uh,
there of
what,
what I'm doing.
yeah, well, perfect. Yeah, no, it's obviously a little help with AI there. No full disclosure, but yeah, AI and a few tweaks. It's amazing what a transcript of a pre-show can do. But yes, welcome to the show. Give us a quick background. I know I just gave the quick intro, but give us the quick elevator pitch on Michael and MMG Medical.
Yeah, I'll keep this quick, but my background originally graduated college and I was a golf pro. So I went to school, I got a business degree, but also a minor in professional golf management. So, the early phases of my professional life were at a golf course. And I used to caddy as a kid and things like that. So, I got a job out of school at Kansas City Country Club. So originally I'm from Massachusetts, but moved out to the Midwest after college, and I've been here ever since. I love it out here. Um, and I've always had a service background. I think when people hear that I was a golf pro, they think, oh man, like first thing they think is, did I play professionally? So again, people think like I'm a pro golfer playing in tournaments. Not the case. I'm a golf pro. I'm teaching golf, and the big part was running tournaments. So, for me, like that was such a great opportunity because you could throw a tournament where you put a scoreboard up, put scorecards in the golf cart, and send them on their way, or you can make it an experience. And I was very fortunate to work at country clubs that were elite, and they understood that. So, there'd be tea gifts. When people showed up, they had to have cart placards that were customized. We knew so my one of my first internships was at a place called the Country Club in Brookline, Massachusetts, and it was a life-changing experience. The head pro there, his name was Brendan Walsh. Great mentor, literally changed my life. And something that was amazing he would do is he would literally memorize every person on the guest list name with the member they were playing with in the tournament. So he could, I mean, we would have sometimes like 200, 250 people playing per day. And he could just rattle off who so and so's member is, where they're coming from, things like that. So, it just taught me about, how to build an experience. So I come out of school and I'm a golf pro, and I just realized I wanted to do something else. It wasn't necessarily what I want to do for the rest of my life. So one of the people I was teaching was a pharmaceutical manager. And I just told him one day, I'm like, hey, I think I got to get out of this. And he's like, you would be great in sales. He's like, do sales. He's like, don't do pharma, do med device. He's like, everybody wants to get into med device, do med device. So he connects me to a recruiter, and I interviewed at Stryker. It was my only company I interviewed with and got the job. So I was really lucky, and I started as a sales associate for Recon, which is total knee and hip replacement. So I was at Stryker for 7 years or so. Um, and I'm very grateful for that experience. It opened many doors, and I think it taught me what the business is. It's pretty crazy where I was there for what seems to me a short time, but you just watch the industry evolve so fast, and it was changing so rapidly. And for me, as someone that likes to focus on service, I just felt like I wasn't able to kind of live and do the things I like to do that I feel like are important for the job. Because for us, we're covering surgical procedures. I'm bringing implants, I'm bringing instruments. I'm training the hospital staff. I'm doing a lot. So when I felt like I was being restricted on the service element, that's when I started my distributorship and got very lucky to find a company like Max Orthopedics to really partner with, and they empower me to do really what I want to do, and that is which we can kind of jump into, but be a full service concierge. Like I refer to me as like I am like a butler or a caddy for a surgeon. Like I know what you're thinking. I know what you're going to say next. I have every instrument you want to use. I have the instrument that you didn't even think that you were going to use in this case that I have.
Well, yeah, you're like the caddy. Like all the surgeon has to do is stick out his hand, and you're putting a 5 iron in there, and you're like, "Hey, hit this thing a little thin," and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
It's
I don't want to give myself too much credit for how they perform in surgery. They're amazing, but I think so my wife
well,
has done
the golfer still gets the credit. He still gets 90% of the purse, right?
right.
But it's a good caddy's worth its weight in gold for
Yeah,
sure.
100%, and like so my wife came and filmed some of our surgeries for content for Max, and she leaves the OR and she's never been in there with me before or at all. And she was like, "Wow, you are really involved in that surgery." I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "That's insane," right? She's like, "I'm like, thinking about all the training and things like that." So we're pretty involved, but it's been
To
fun.
be honest with you, no disrespect. To somewhat think of like med device or med sales rep. It's just like, hey, they drop off the part and they kind of just stand in the corner on their cell phone and make sure nothing goes wrong and make sure that and maybe that is the rest of the industry and that's what you're trying to change.
That
But I think
is.
that's the interpretation most people have.
And that's what it is. I mean, like you'd be stunned by how many people sit in the corner on their phones, Like we have a rule like you are not allowed to be on your phone in the operating room unless it's an emergency. We train our professionals to be engaged and things like that. So I do think too, my experience is like when I first came in the industry, I never got training. So I was taught in the field, So I'm coming from being a golf pro. I wasn't trained on anatomy and all these things. And to me, I'm like, when I was a golf pro, something that was really powerful. So we had this policy and procedure manual at the country club. And it was basically like, this is how you act. I mean, there's a script on here's how we answer the phone, here's how we greet people. And, I think some people would look at that and be like, oh man, it's what a control freak. I look at it as like every team, great teams, like championship teams, they want discipline. Like if you look at great football teams, like great dynasties. I'm from Boston, right? So I'm a Patriots fan. So I look at the Bill Belichick's of the world, which he's controversial for the last couple days here, but um, look at how they act, right? They're disciplinarians. Like they have created a structure of this is how we act here, and the players love going there. It's the same thing for an Alabama or wherever.
Mhm.
So I think sometimes we lose touch of that when what I think's happened, which I don't want to get too off topic, but I think in my space, it's like the companies in the last 20 years, it's been a situation where the sales rep is the one that's driving revenue for a company in medical device, in ortho. Let's just stay in my space. In the last 20 years, I'll just say 20 years, it's shifted where the company is now providing the leads and the sales. So they've shifted, right? And I think for the company, I think that in the short term, that's great, right? Because you found a way to grow your business consistently and you control it. I think that you can limit how much you're spending on sales reps if you know how to do that. But I think in the long run, you now have a sales force that they don't know how to fight. They don't know how to go out there and grow and sell, and they don't know how to perform in the operating room. They just think, hey,
I used to be in the
they're,
I
they're
used to be in the
accountants.
mortgage business and I'm sorry, go on, my
Oh no,
apologies.
you're good. Yeah, I mean, they're just to me, they know how to manage an account, but they don't know how to grow a territory. They don't know how to act in an operating room. They're not given structure. So I think like a big reason we started MMG Medical is to form that structure. I've brought people in here. There's one associate that has any background in healthcare. Everyone else is no experience at all in healthcare, similar to me. And we're starting from scratch. So for us, like we're building training programs because we want to get our people, trained the right way, fast. We're redoing our website right now, social media platforms, but like we have our policy and procedure manual. So, and it's funny, like the team actually enforces it. And that's what you hear about great teams, So like we have a rule where you got to be clean shaven. So if I ever go into the hospital, on surgery days and I'm not clean shaven, my associates will look at me and be like, "Oh, I forgot to shave today," and I'm like, "I love this." They're looking at the boss and making sure the boss follows the rules. And we don't expect people to be
Yeah, nobody's above the rules, right?
Right. And for me, I'm just like, I'm grateful that I've created that culture where they feel like, hey, if you're not acting how you're supposed to act, I'm going to tell you that you're not acting the right way. And I think that's how you make sure everyone's rowing the boat in the same direction, versus somebody not rowing. And then all of a sudden you get six people on the boat, but five people are rowing and one person's not really rowing. And you're not getting, it's not that you can't be successful, but to me, it's like, how good can we be? You know?
I was just talking about this yesterday, or the day before, with a guest on the show, and I think it's a Simon Sinek book, but it talks about most leaders just try to pile as many people on the bus as they can, and that's how they create a company. Like, oh, there's 60 seats, let's put 60 people in there. How do we smash 60 people in there? But if you have the wrong 60 people, you're just setting yourself up for disaster. So it's about getting the right people on the bus, to your point, to make sure everybody's aligned culturally, goal oriented, whatever those important key values are to your company. Yeah, that's really important.
And so funny story. So my brother has a friend who, I'm not trying to dog him out here, but he's just part of the story, because this is, I think, a problem most young entrepreneurs have. So I'll share it. So guy calls me and he sells a med device product that he's created, right? So it's a new idea for him, and he's raising money. So he wants to talk to me about my experience as an entrepreneur, and I think he was also maybe trying to raise some money for me. So we go over how much you've sold and things like that. And the numbers were not, I mean, hey, listen, he was able to do it as a full-time gig, and that's very impressive. But there was great months and then there's little months. But, talking to him, he's like, oh yeah, my company's worth $2 million or whatever it was. And I'm opening up for 20% at this much. And number one, like, the numbers aren't even adding up. But he's asking me about what do I think and what feedback do I have. The first thing I said to him was like, okay, so it's just you right now working at your company, right? I was like, okay, so how are you going to hire people and train them? No answer. And he's like, well, how do you do it? Right? And the answer is very, very simple. It's by motion creates emotion, and it's by connecting. Like, I go and network. Like, every person that's here, there's only one associate that I didn't know through the gym I go to, mutual friends, hospital I go to.
There was some sort of connection.
I mean, how many people are going to work at a Fortune 100 company, let's say Fortune 500, Fortune 100 company, and leave that job that maybe pays six figures to go to a startup company that has two employees? How many people would actually do that? Not many.
Not many.
Right. So your pool is very limited. So what does that say? It's not that you can't get good talent. That's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is that you are not going to get highly trained professionals very quickly. So, I need to, like, honestly, like, part of our training program is we teach people how to dress. I teach you how to eat at the dinner table. Like, we had a guy that, like, he didn't know how to eat properly at a dinner table. So I had to teach him. And we gave him a book. Like, you have to be able to eat with the queen, you know? Like, that's like, when I was at a country.
But it's funny. It's like, even, and then back to our pre-conversation about being a dad and your current son and soon to be son. Congratulations on all that again. But yeah, it's just, even you'll be amazed, and then you'll see your kids as they grow up, and then other kids of similar ages, where you have a kid who's 15 who still can't order for themselves.
Yeah.
It's like, they walk up to a counter, and it's just like they'll look at their mom, or they'll look at me, or if you're with them, and it's just like, oh, I'll take a cheeseburger. It's like, don't look at me, like, order, dude.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, we started that at a very young age. Or back when I was in the mortgage business years ago, I used to bring my older one, at the time, when we used to stand in front of 50, 65 real estate agents, whatever it is, in office meetings, and talk and present, and he would have to introduce himself just to get comfortable
That's
with all
cool.
that. It's like, get your face out of off the screens, and actually interact with some human beings.
It's development.
Um,
Like, I think that, this is where, and again, those bigger companies that I was once a part of, I just think that they're losing sight because it's so money driven. Everything is about money. And, we talked about this, a couple weeks ago when we chatted, but, the most important person at a publicly traded company is the shareholder. That's it. And it's not the associates. And I think when you have that mindset, you start
Or the
to,
customers.
yeah, or the customers, right? When the associate's the most important person at a company, that includes being trained well, they're happy, which means they're going to provide the best experience possible for a customer. You know what I mean? I think, but yes, the customer is also very important. But you just look at that dynamic, and it's just when you're focused so much on how much money did we make this quarter? How are we doing? You lose sight because, like, if you have to go make some money this year, this quarter to catch up, and you had a bad quarter last year or whatever, training is not going to be the top of your priority list, right? So it
Mhm.
might be a flaw, but you're not worried about training people right now. You're like, oh my God, we had a bad month. We need to get this thing going. Where for me, it's just like we're very fortunate. We've been cash flow positive from day one. We're debt free. I think big picture here, like we're gonna have an ESOP program established. I want this to be an employee owned company. Um, and it's the slow game. It's like we need to build the pillars of the foundation before we can go do anything. Like we're just now at a point where I can actually go and have people selling and growing our territories. Like it took 3 years to get to that point. And that's to go back to the story of that gentleman I was talking to. I'm like, man, all you're talking about is how much sales you've done and how much money you think your company's worth. I'm like, if you're going to go raise money, you better make sure the person that's giving you money is going to be involved, and they're going to teach you how to train people and how to hire people. I mean, like, so since I own this company, I've had to fire 4 people, and that's tough. I've never realized that that was going to be a factor in owning my own business. And firing somebody is the worst thing in the world. I've
It
never,
sucks.
it
It
sucks.
sucks.
It does. It's the worst thing in the world. And it's not that these people that we had to let go were, bad people or, bad employees. It's just when you are so small, right? Like the first 5 people, 10 people at a startup company like us, it's crucial. And you have to have a certain mindset. You know what I mean? Like, I think the people that were once here that aren't anymore, if they come here 10 years from now, oh man, totally different situation. But we're going to have better training programs and all the other things. But, there's a certain personality type that requires to be successful here right now. But those are things that, like, that guy's not thinking about. How are you going to fire people, right? How are you going to hire people? Do you have contracts made? Like, what's your policy and procedure manual? What's your training program going to be like? How do you want employees to go sell? How do you want them to do it? Because, in med device, it varies, right? I've had managers that they couldn't cover a surgery. They've never sold an implant. And they're telling me to go sell implants at the sink, the scrub sink, before a doctor goes into the OR. Oh, go bump into Dr. So and so. It's like, that's A, so uncreative, and B, it's so rude, And I'm like, but you are teaching your associates to do that. So if they go do that, they're just following orders, you know?
I'm gonna make that. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I guess that brings us into actually kind of leads perfectly into that B2B client acquisition process. I know you and I touched on that a little bit in the pre-call. Your really white glove, customized, personalized approach to it, but uh, obviously staying on topic of the show with AI and data. Um, where do you find the right role is for AI? Is it like research? Is it personalization? Is it helping with automated follow up? Is it targeting? Like, where are you incorporating AI into that? Finding the next doctor, what's the next territory to use? That type of stuff.
Yeah, I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago. I said to those who just want to plug in AI and think it's going to do outreach for you and bring you all this business, in my world, I think that they all should do that and they should rely very heavily on AI, bringing them more customers. That sounds good to me. I'm going to eat you alive. The way that I look at implementing AI to start is it's a great tool for gathering the data on understanding who you're targeting. I think like it's really hard. I believe that,
So, like the research piece of it.
yeah, 100%. So like we can run reports, and I'm going to sound like a beginner, like I don't know what I'm talking about, but Python is a service, but we've used like AI to generate reports. So in healthcare, surgeons, when they do a total knee, it's a certain CPT code, and that's issued to the insurance company, basically being like, this is what was done, this is the reimbursement for the case. So we've utilized with AI, um, tracking those CPT codes in each individual state that we are within our territory to just get a list of surgeons. So, I think it's important because we really specialize in high volume surgeons that want to focus on efficiency and things like that. So, using AI to understand, okay, who is the best customer for us? Because I don't want to say waste, but I don't want to spend a year going after a certain surgeon where the reality is what we do best isn't really fitting their needs a whole lot. And, now you've spent a year or two trying to flip that business. And the reality is like, well, we probably went after the wrong target. So I think using AI to help us understand, okay, where should we be going? Where do we need to be targeting people? Like, who are the people we should be targeting? Um, and then other ways I'll just tell you how we're using AI if that helps. And then like other ways we're doing
Yeah,
it.
no, that's
So,
perfect.
um, so when we create our target list of like, okay, we're going to go and sell to surgery centers or community hospitals or all that stuff. We'll just literally plug in. I use Google AI, but ChatGPT will plug in that information, say who's the CEO here, and it just gives us a whole list of this is who the CEO is. Here are videos that they've done. It gives me a whole list of information. So to me, I've been using it a lot for the data collection because once I understand the customer better, now I can create a personalized approach. So like I tell my team, like we'll sit in meetings, like our team meetings, and we have our targets, and I'll start quizzing the team on, okay, hey, where did Dr. So and so do their residency program? Where do they do their fellowship program? Okay, who taught them at fellowship like because to me it's important. You have to know where they're coming from. You have to understand how they think, and you have to understand like, okay, what is a priority for them? Because these are programs that are creating surgeons a certain way and putting them into the field. So you need to understand how they operate. So I've been using it a lot just to get to know who the customer is, but I think more and more we'll start using it, probably to generate leads in some capacity. I just, we're just going after like it's more of fewer customers, but the high ticket items. And to me, it's like there's such a personal connection element needed. It's like the whole networking, and it's like a trigger word. Everyone's saying network and network, and um, but it's like building a community that introduces you is very important too, right? So when you're trying to sell these high ticket items and things like that. So I don't really know yet. I don't know how we'll really implement it to help overall, like maybe go out on its own and start working for us to bring leads in, but it does a great job for us to like gather information to understand who we're targeting.
Gotcha. So when you guys do walk in the door or pick up the phone and call that doctor or whoever it may be in that office or that decision maker, you know more about them, or I don't want to say more about them than they know about themselves, but you're very well educated, and it's not just obviously in this particular case knowing about the doctors themselves, but also knowing about the company, whether it's that particular doctor's office or if it's in a different field, whatever field that is. If you're not the expert in that particular field, you can become the expert in that
Yeah.
particular field extremely quick, or even just in that, I don't know, geographic locations or, things like that might make a difference in the way you communicate or personalized messaging. All of that type of stuff can be taken into account.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's not like I think sometimes when you're really generating this data, you can feel like, oh my gosh, I'm like a stalker right now. But I look at it differently. To me, I'm like, you have to respect the customer so much that you are willing to get to know who they are. And if I know that Dr. So and so is a big football fan, they love this team, um, okay, I know I'm going to talk about that because that's kind of like a topic that they're interested in. So when I'm trying just to get comfortable with them and them to build trust with me, let's connect on something that mutually we have an interest. That's all it is. I don't like going into meetings where I absolutely don't know anything. Like I don't know their personality type. I don't know any facts about them. just because it's tricky. You're spending so much time just trying to understand how to act and what to ask to get to know them that it limits the efficiency and effectiveness of the meeting, you know? So,
Well, people's attention span's so short nowadays. It's like you gotta come in, and even just with face-to-face meetings, you have to be as efficient as possible, right? Because within minutes, the phone's buzzing, somebody's calling them, somebody's
yeah.
trying to grab their attention from you within minutes.
Well, it's a good point. So, like, for example, I have a surgeon that we work with now, and he is great on email. Not every surgeon's good on email, but I've seen how he emails. He literally would put in the subject line what he wants to know, and then very like he'll put in the email like, when is this coming out? You know, like it's a quick, and he'll just send me a million emails that are like that. I'm like, okay, so when I'm emailing you, that's how I'm going to communicate to you. You know, so do I think AI can do that now?
Yeah,
Probably.
you're not going to reply to him with 14 paragraphs that he has to read. Like it's going to
Right.
annoy him.
Exactly. And he wants to know in the subject line what we're talking about. He kind of wants the answer in the subject line, you know? So but
Because he
for
probably gets
me,
a lot of emails, so he wants to pick out, he wants to be able to just look through subject lines, pick out the ones that are important, and that's how he files and prioritizes his emails.
yeah, yeah, but to me, like that is sales. You know, like that truly is how you win deals. You know, when you're doing a big, like when most, if you look at the amount of orthopedic surgeons that will convert their business over, it's very little. You know, it's a tough thing to do. So it's like you have to be thinking that way. You know, like you have to be able to adapt and get to know what their personality is like and how they want you to talk to them and communicate. It's important. And to me, like that's respecting the customer. So when we talk about like getting to know them and what they're interested in, and if they've done a podcast, if they've done videos, you better watch those videos before you go talk to them because they're giving you information about them. You know,
Yeah, definitely learn about their personality. There's definitely a lot you can learn from somebody that's been on video in the past, for sure.
and that's an AI can help because I can just do one search and it will give me all this information, right? So that's how I like to use AI is that, and there's like other things like for us, we have to get on these like GPOs, so like group purchasing organizations, whatever. And it's like all these hospital systems will essentially partner on these GPOs to get better pricing, what they'll do, right? So using that, I just used again ChatGPT. I was like, so what are most orthopedic companies using on contracts to get approved on GPOs? And it gives me a full list of everything they're doing. I'm like, perfect, right? So now it's like when I have, and that's a barrier for us. It's like, well, now I know the answer because, like I'm not that type of person that likes to go back and forth on like a best offer, right? When I'm sending pricing to a hospital, it's not like, okay, I'm going to send this to them for 10 grand and my number's 7 grand. So let's wiggle around here. I'm just like, whatever my number is that I want to give you, that's the number. So again, using that type of information just makes the process efficient.
Yeah, definitely streamlining efficiencies, to no end. And I think that's where, even outside of that client acquisition side of things, it's going to be amazing to see how much automation can be brought where it's not completely eliminating human touch or human interaction or anything, but just making that human being more efficient, right?
Yep.
Letting them do more with the time that they have, letting them not work 60 hours a week and maybe work 50 hours a week and enjoy some time with family. There's a lot there.
How are you? And I agree with your point there of like it's allowing humans to be more human, because you're able to connect better and things like that. I don't think it's taking away that human relationship, that touch. I think it's making it. I think if you use it the right way, I think it's making it better. So for you, like, what do you see as the most successful way right now for companies using AI to essentially like work on their outreach and lead generation and things like that? Like, what are tools that you've used or have heard of that have been the most successful?
Good question. It's rare that somebody flips the script and asks me a question on this show, but I like it.
I'm in sales, so
Um, yeah, no, it's I mean, first and foremost, I think the easiest and the lowest hanging fruit is the voice AI, and it's just having that 24/7, 365 employee that can literally pick up phone calls, call every lead back right away, live on your website, as that site widget. And then it's also in terms of like the client acquisition process, then it's because like to your point, it's a very personalized process, and I don't think AI can take over the entire sales process. But if an AI SDR can email every single surgeon in your region within whatever, basically email your entire market or that market before your rep goes into that territory, and blast them with multiple emails, generate replies, try to generate appointments before even going into that territory. So there is some familiarity, some brand recognition, and emails, pennies compared to running ads. Then I still see there's a lot of value. Now, that AI is maybe 5 to 10% of just, hey, some brand recognition, get your foot in the door, book some appointments. Um, but it's, is it going to take over B2B sales from start to finish? Never. Not in your case and not in most cases. Nobody's going to sign a, multi-year, multi-million or $100,000 contract from, from some AI prompts or a voice AI or something along those lines. But it is a way to maintain efficiencies. I mean, and we had one use case with one of the businesses where, internal use. Moving company wanting to streamline their claims department, right? We were able to, rather than one person spending an hour on the phone with somebody going through all these questions, we were able to automate literally 75% of the claims. So somebody calls in, the voice AI prompt walks them through all the questions. It then populates everything. It then goes to one human being who then reviews it, makes a follow-up call to dot the I's and cross the T's. So now that human action's 15 to 20 minutes versus an hour to an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours. And now that one human being can process 8 claims in theory in a matter of 2 hours versus one, maybe two if she's lucky. So there's all kinds of internal applications, even outside of the client acquisition process, that I think will be exciting to explore, in the B2B realm or space.
So, I get reached out to on LinkedIn by college kids and young professionals that want to get into med device all the time, right? And I'm always scouting talent. Like I said, I'm not just getting flooded with Harvard grads trying to come to MMG Medical, maybe someday, but not right now. So you got to test them and you have to see like, okay, who are you? What kind of person are you? Like, what's your perseverance going to be like if I don't respond to things? So, I got reached out by somebody on Monday, and they wanted to talk to me about my experience, wondering if I would give them some time. So I emailed them back, and I was like, sure, I can meet with you next Thursday at 9 o'clock in the morning, Central. And they respond and say, well, I'm doing this and this that day. I think they were moving or something like that. Do you have any other days? And I'm thinking to myself, I won't respond to you because and I love my wife. I could not be here. There's only one woman on the world that could probably handle me, and that is my wife. But she gets it. Like if something pops up, I just do it. And I'm thinking to myself, like, you just got a chance to talk to the CEO of a medical device distributor that could connect you with other companies. I could be a great resource for you. And
Yeah.
I gave you a time, unless there's
Yeah.
something that's more important.
Even if you're in your freaking car on your phone, like you don't
Right.
have to be in a three-piece suit ready to go on a Zoom call, but like, hey, I'm moving, but I'm gonna make that time work. Can we make a phone call versus Zoom call? Like,
Yep.
freaking bend a little bit, make it happen. If it's important, I mean, what's the saying? If it's important, you'll make it happen, right?
And that
And
and
that's just
that's and that's what I've learned, so the people that were, again, like that question of how are you going to hire people, like I had no idea what I was doing. I was a golf pro and a sales rep. I don't know how to hire people. So it's like now I realize I'm like I have to find out if this person is built this way, because I'm not going to go from doing 1 million to 10 million to 100 million to whatever we're trying to get to with somebody that's not going to take that call. I need people that take that call, you know? So
Think- Thinking about what you mentioned earlier and about training, and it sounds like you go in depth with your training or that type of stuff, but even voice AI prompts for your training, where you could literally dump your entire training manual into a knowledge base, create a whatever you want to call him or her, but your training bot where you can have them prompted to, in essence, quiz your employees or your training. Hey, call up and you can program them as a potential surgeon, right? So this surgeon knows all of this. You're going to call in and have a mock sales call with this surgeon. This surgeon is prompted to be kind of cagey, tough to deal with, ask, you can literally customize and
yeah,
you can make different personalities. You can have like, hey, here's a female surgeon with this type of personality, here's a male surgeon with this type of personality, and everything in between. And then literally have a 24/7 sales coach that you can constantly have your sales team practice with. And then you can see the recordings and then put it into like a sales call analyzer to record all the or to review all the prompts, things
that
like that. They're
that's genius. I'm taking that. Thank you. Because that's I need to do that, because I think like it's about reps, So I'm very fortunate where repetition. Like at a golf course, I was very lucky. I got to work at high-end clubs where there's billionaires, pro athletes, whatever you want. And they're high maintenance. God love them, and I am there to serve. You know what I mean? So, and typically, like half the time that they're there, they're complaining, right? And I got so much experience around that type of clientele and how to talk through it. So as I reflect, the first time I had to go and talk to Mr. or Mrs. So and so about a problem, I would be shaking, because I'm nervous versus, after doing it as much as I did, you're confident. And actually, they don't want somebody nervous talking to them. They want someone confident. I mean, think about that. If you have a problem and you're looking,
especially in your position, they don't want somebody like right. They want, it's like, hey, I'm hiring you to, or you're here for a specific reason. Like,
yeah,
I need you to be freaking bulletproof and dialed in, and a source of truth in this particular area, not a source of freaking anxiety for me, right?
and it's funny. So when you bring in high achievers, which I mean, you probably relate to this. You bring in a bunch of high achievers on your team, and I've heard Nick Saban give this quote, and it's so true. Like mediocrity hates high achievers, and high achievers hate mediocrity. Well, when you have a team of high achievers and you have mediocrity sneak in, they don't like it at all, and they're looking at the boss. And how's the boss going to do it? And it's like, man, they challenge you. It's like prison rules out here. They're like challenging the boss on, are you going to take care of this? Because if not, you're not the boss anymore. And I think like as I always harp on this with the team is patience because these are skills that are taught. Everything is a skill that's taught. Well, so and so doesn't have good table manners. Teach them. So and so doesn't dress well. Teach them. So and so doesn't know how to greet people. Teach them. It's not that hard. You have to teach people. I mean,
Yeah,
like,
send them a link to a YouTube video. It's literally that easy
yeah.
nowadays.
So like we have set books that's required reading before you start here, and they're all on certain things, and we talk about it as a team, but it's continuous education. So like we have an internship program. We did it last year. We're doing it again this year, and I'm very excited for it. We've actually doubled in size for interns this year, which is cool. So every associate here does 2 presentations to the team, to the interns. So we do seminars the whole summer. None of it is about total joint replacement at all. It's about public speaking, project management, right? Networking, like we talk about, so like, I bring in new people and I give them projects to run. Um, I can't get upset when they're not doing the best job on the project with getting it to the finish line. They have to be taught. Like I've had so many years of managing projects, I've gotten better at it. I'm not the best at it, but I can't expect people to be at my level if they haven't done enough. So it's actually my fault. I tell that like we have this in our policy and procedure manual. Everything is your fault. When you look at everything, like if something happens and you just immediately say it's my fault, life is amazing.
Yeah,
You know?
take that extreme
Oh
ownership,
my
right?
God, life is so simple, and it helps me evaluate problems we have here. So if we're not doing a good job on a project, it's my fault because I'm not giving the person running it the tools to be as successful as I want them to be. It's my fault. So, um, but it comes from training and patience. I think like there's things that have to be coached, but then there's things that don't have to be. There's things that have to be instinctual. That is kind of like what we were talking about. Like if I give you a time and a date to call me and you reject it because you're in the car driving someplace, you don't have what I need.
Well, there's I cut you off earlier, but then let you finish. But what I was going to say, you brought up is there's in the mortgage business. This is years ago, but almost 15 years ago now or so. But there's two types of people. There's hunters and there's gatherers, right? And you can't really teach a hunter to be a gatherer and vice versa. Or it's well, I mean, you can maybe teach a hunter to be a gatherer, but it's very difficult to teach a gatherer to go be a hunter. Um, and that's what, like in the mortgage business, we used to call like the independent mortgage companies and brokers, the ones that would go hunt and establish relationships with people, get business, live off referrals. And then you'd have the gatherers, the guys just sitting in the bank locations waiting for somebody to walk in. Now, mind you, their commissions were a quarter of what our commissions were because the bank controlled the flow of the deals and
Yep.
everything else. But it's to your point. I think most individuals, especially, as seasoned as yourself, like you can kind of tell quickly if this guy's a hunter or a gatherer, within the first, obviously,
Yeah.
within this case, within the first few LinkedIn messages, you're like, oh, this guy's not a hunter, right? Move on to
So
the next one.
I've got a guy that I'm sure he'd be okay with me sharing the story. So he's going to be kind of like the next person we bring on the team. So he interviews with us a year and a half ago. And on the phone, I literally told him, like, this is the worst interview I've ever had in my life. I was like, you didn't ask one question about me. I went through the whole list, right? And he was kind of nervous on the call. So I gave him three books to read. I said, here's the books that we read as a company. You need to go read these books. And, he says, thank you. And we hang up. So about 5 months ago, he reaches out to me because he saw we posted for a job, and he says, "Hey, Michael, can we chat?" And we get on the phone, and this was a whole different person,
That's honestly, I love hearing stories like
whole
this.
whole different person. He goes, "I got off the phone with you that day, and I realized that I was not ready to take that to work with you, and I realized if I want to get into sales, I have to learn sales." So he went and worked at Enterprise. He read these books. He learned how to be more social. He learned like he's learning how to be social. He's learning about service and how to sell. Goes and gets a sales job, and then literally, because we're kind of in the process of about to, how small company. It's like, hey, we're going to need someone in 3 months, but you got to wait 3 months. So
Yeah.
he literally quit his job and moved back up to Kansas City to wait to come here. And
Wow.
as I talked to him on the phone, he was like, he would talk about someday working in MMG Medical. He's like, I'm going to get myself to a point where I'm going to go work for Michael at MMG Medical. And I think to myself, like, wow, you could have taken that two ways, right? You could have hung up the phone and said, man, this guy's an asshole,
Yeah, yeah.
but
This guy needs to go
you know
F
what I
himself.
mean? Or you can go the other direction and be like, okay, like, wait, was he right? Oh, wait, yeah,
Yeah,
there are
he
nuggets in there. That's
ate a big piece of humble pie and went and changed his life, right?
changed
That's
life, and that's
phenomenal.
who I want. Like I want that.
100%. Because that guy's a fighter, right? I mean, that guy will get through adversity when the going gets tough. He's going to stick around there. I mean, 100%. That's the guy you want,
Yeah.
not the
And
guy that comes in super polished, right off the bat.
yeah, like honestly, we have a joke around here. It's like we don't hire med device reps. They got too many bad habits sometimes. It's honestly like, you want gritty. What's that quote? It's like bring them to me young, hungry, and poor, and I'll make them rich, whatever. It's kind of is that. It's like if you're hungry and you want to make something of yourself, you are gonna instinctually commit actions that we need. And I think that for an example is fear. And fear was going to exist in people's lives forever, and it's a very toxic and negative energy to have in your life. And, when you're getting paid six figures, let's say, the idea of leaving that to go to a startup company, maybe make less, right? But the reward's way more, but at first might be less. The fear of that overcomes them and they won't make a decision. So even like the story I'm telling you, it's like, okay, fear obviously crept into his mind, and he overcame it. He controlled his mind, so it's a powerful thing. So, I think like,
Well, yeah, the
I
fear of there's
apologize.
just so much uncertainty. Like, what if I do all this and Michael still tells me I suck or whatever it is at the end of the day, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's a that's a lot of yeah, that's a lot of fear to overcome. Some people that don't even look into or don't even try to do something like that don't realize how much fear, because it's on a daily basis, right? It's not like he just flipped the switch and called you the next day and was like, "Hey, Michael, I've changed." Like, he had to invest a lot of time, energy, and effort into changing himself before he was willing to get back in front of you.
Yeah.
I just realized we're almost at 45 minutes already. I had a
Sorry, I
feeling
know
when during
I know we
our
jumped a little
our
late on it,
pre-show
but
went for a while too, so I had a feeling you and I are both kind of talkers, so we could probably do this all day long if we needed to. But what I wanted to ask is, I usually wrap it up with a book recommendation or something. But you mentioned some required readings for your team. I'm just curious what those are.
so I joke about this because this is the number one book I recommend to everybody. Number one book, and I joke about it because I'm like, I need to get a commission off this book. I'm selling this book so much. But I think the greatest sales book that's ever been made in the history of mankind is called Hug Your Customer by Jack Mitchell. I don't know, have you heard this book by chance?
No, honestly, and I thought I've heard of most of them at this point, but hug your customer.
So Mitchell's is a clothing
It
store.
makes sense with your approach to sales. I mean,
It's so in like so the story is like it's Mitchell's clothing store, and you read this book, and it talks about the obsession over customer experience, and what does that actually mean? So when you talk about CRMs and AI and how you're going to implement it, like how are some ways we might implement it will be from a CRM standpoint, how do I make the experience as good as possible for the customer? And it's about going the extra mile, and there's so many stories in this book of like someone had a jacket that got dirty, so they need a new blue suit because they have a big meeting and they're in New York City and they're in Connecticut and they drove a suit overnight to, they go the extra mile. I remember like for me, and we talk about like a hug your customer environment here. I have a surgeon and he hates this tibia jig or it was a distal femur cutting block that he hated. He would tell me he hates it, and I was like, okay, whatever. And eventually, it was like, I really hate this, And now I'm feeling the heat. So I knew I had some of these newer handles that are different than that in Joplin, Missouri, which is like 3 hours from here. So I'm like, well, and we have surgery the very next day. So I jump in the car, I drive down to Joplin, Missouri, and all of a sudden it starts to hail. It's raining like crazy. My windshield wiper stops working on my side of so my passenger side worked, mine didn't. So I'm literally driving like this, head out the window to go get this handle. And I bring it up the next day. He uses it and he goes, "Oh, this is amazing." I'm like, "Well, it took me
yeah,
7 hours, almost died to
yeah, I was
get
going to say
this."
7 hours and legitimately risk your life for that. For that.
Yeah, but that to me is that's how you win. Hug your customer is I think and everyone that reads that book always says the same thing. They're like it's life-changing book. I think it tells you how to be a good person, and I think it tells you how to really serve people. So that'd be my recommendation is that.
I appreciate that recommendation. I'll make sure we put it in the show notes and everything. And with that, let's sign off. I really appreciate your time. This has been a great episode. Honestly, I usually keep track and see when that 30-minute mark hits, but looked up and then we're at 45 minutes already. But great episode. I really appreciate you sharing your wealth of knowledge, especially with the sales process, that detailed approach. The I mean, and I think it's just so important in the B2B space, which is, I think, going to quickly get lost, or or companies like yourself are going to have to figure out how much we can use AI to be as efficient as possible, but without losing that customer relationship. But it sounds like that's, the path that you're going is, hey, there might be some opportunities there to open some doors, but at the end of the day, AI is not going to bring on a surgeon and close them and build trust and credibility and win a deal for us. So it's exciting to see what the future holds. But really appreciate your time. If you're listening in, don't forget to like and subscribe here on YouTube or wherever you're listening, or if you're watching a clip, like and subscribe or follow us on social media. And thank you again, Michael. Any final words?
Jason, I just want to say thanks for giving me your time. I had a lot of fun doing this. Is my first podcast ever, so it was a great conversation. I think you're doing a great job, and creating a platform where entrepreneurs and people can come on and kind of share their story and just I think learn. I learned something today from how you're utilizing AI, and I'm going to take that and implement it with my business. So thank you for giving me some pointers and for having me on here. And I'll plug in. Go follow MMG Medical on LinkedIn if you don't mind. Give me a follow here. We're trying to grow that. So
Perfect. MMG Medical and Michael Giangregorio.
boom,
Boom. I
great
can't
work.
believe I remembered it 48 minutes later.
That's right.
I
Yeah,
had
we
to
got to
say
end on
it's
that. Good job.
all
Hug the
right.
customer.
Perfect.
That's a
Sign
hug.
off.
That's a hug.
There you go. Have a great day, everyone. We'll talk to you guys soon. Stay tuned for the next episode.
Thank you.